Hello.
Oh my God,
the
Queen.
roles the roles are reversed. I usually
Yes.
don't start them, but I'm Kaelin,
And I'm Kat.
and this is
No Baddies Left Behind. And it's the morning right now.
Mhm.
If you cannot tell from my background, and Cam's is a little bit brighter, it's actually considered the morning still. It's 11
Mhm.
o'clock, well, almost 12, but we're recording in the daylight, Queen. Who are we?
We're switching it up.
Mm-hmm. Sipping on some coffee because it's actually an appropriate time to drink coffee. Anyways, so today, Kaylin and I are going to be talking about 10 things we learned from our exes. I'm excited for this, Queen.
I feel like we've learned a lot.
Yes, quite a lot. And we kind of did go a little bit into this with our previous, like, Love Club, but we're saving some for you guys for more content to come. But yes, we're just learning some lessons that we've learned from these men. Okay. So, you start, Queen. What's your number one? What's your first one on your list?
Okay, the first one I have is communication is different for everyone. And that it looks different for everyone because I noticed throughout my relationships there were a lot of times where I felt like I was communicating the things that I wanted or the things that I expected clearly, but they weren't being received the way that I was intending for them to be received, and vice versa. And so I learned, communication is really important in any relationship, whether it be romantic or platonic, but that looks different for everyone. It's kind of like when you're dating someone and you're both cleaning the house, where you start cleaning the house, because that's how you were raised. Some people start in the bathroom, some people start in the kitchen. It's kind of like that. Everything, it's different for everyone. And so I think just being aware of the other person's communication style and the way that they get their point of across, I think that understanding that helped a lot in kind
Okay.
of diminishing arguments. Like, you're not getting it. You're not understanding me.
Yeah. Okay, Queen. I love that. That is very true. I think everyone is really different. Sometimes when you try to get something out of someone that's just not how or who they are, it's where a lot of it is you can't give more than you are already giving sometimes. And if you're asking from the wrong person, it's just, it's not gonna, you're not gonna get what you want. And
Yeah.
anyways, so my number one, it's a little bit bland. Okay, we're starting off a little bit light, and it's just I really truly discovered a version of myself that I just did not know existed. When I was with my ex, I'm obviously not going to disclose who, because if you did not know, on No Baddies Left Behind, we have a no name policy
Mm-hmm.
unless it's they're okay with it. So from my ex, I think that really I remember who I was back then. Obviously, I was also really, really young, but I really never thought that I was going to be able to recover from my heartbreak or learn to be a mom, learn to do it alone, and really just finding out my priorities and my self-respect and really just my perspective on life. Because really having kids at a really young age, you have to shift your perspective because that's just how you have to grow up faster. But I think that's one lesson that I really learned from him that I did not think I would ever get out of being in a relationship with him. Because like I told you, Queen, I said this before, I'm glad you did not know me back then, because who I was back then, it was just a really raw, uncut, immature, my brain was still forming version of me. But yeah, after dating him, I really feel like I've learned to discover that person deep down inside of me that took some time to come out of her shell.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good. I think, despite all the bad
Thank you.
things in the relationship,
Yeah. Yeah.
the big positive is that, you're a better person because of it. You're a changed person because of
Period.
it.
Yes. Thank you for yes. Yes.
My next one is, I feel like this one kind of goes with yours. They are important, but they are not your whole world. Because I think in the past I've kind of made my life revolve around whoever it was that I was dating, and they took up all my time, all my energy. They were the only person that I saw just because, I liked hanging out with them, as you should if you're dating them. But I think it's important to note that, you can still have a life outside of your relationship, and that's okay. You can have your own friends outside of the relationship, and that's okay. This person is not your end all be all, the only thing that should matter.
Period. That is actually on my list, but I'll mention that part of mine later. But definitely. And I feel like when we're young, that's what's, we all want to be around our partner all day, every
Mhm.
day, young love. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I think
Yeah.
that it's so normal, but then also I think it's when you're older. I feel like a lot of people and a lot of my friends figured this out when they graduated high school. That that's really important, that you cannot spend your time together all the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely do agree. And I think sometimes you get, when you're that young, you kind of really rely on them for happiness and for love and all of the pillars of life that you need to find for yourself.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I like that one,
That's
Queen.
what my cousin's going through that right now. They just started dating, and my grandpa's like, he's so infatuated with her. Like, that's how he's spending all his time. I said, that's
Infatuated.
how it should be. That is how it should be.
I mean, in the beginning, it's how it is.
In the beginning,
In
yeah.
the beginning,
In
yeah.
the honeymoon phase.
Honeymoon
And
phase.
then
That's
it
when it is.
dies down.
Yeah. Then it gets a little lighter. It gets a little
Mhm.
lighter. So
Yeah.
bear with your friends if they're going through that. But anyways, my number two is, I mentioned it a little bit, but I learned to change my perspective on life, i.e., having my kids. Like, I think before, I just thought that he turned my life into complete shit. Really, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I really thought that my life was over. My life was just in shambles, and I wasn't gonna come up from where I was. And that couldn't be, further from the truth, because and I used to really regret everything that he and I went through and, you know, how everything played out. But really, if it wasn't for that stage of my life and being able to shift that perspective too, I would have never had my kids. And my kids are, I mean, they're my world. They're my purpose, they're my reason, they're my why, and they ground me, and they really are my purpose. And if I would have never gone through that, I would have never had them. And really, back then, I was drinking like crazy. I mean, granted, I was young and fresh in a heartbreak, but thank God I did not get a DUI. Like, in that stage of my life, it was really, really bad. Like, my parents were so worried about me. Like, what is she going to do with her life? I know she's going through it, but when do we step in? When do we put a pause on what she's going through to make her realize, where do you want your life to be? So, because I went through that and I really shifted my perspective on life, I've learned to grow through what I went through and appreciate all of the hard shit. Because I'm smiling and laughing about it now, but trust me, back then, oh my God, like, really, it was dark and deep and heavy. But yeah, I've learned to change my perspective because of my ex, and I've learned to appreciate life in a different way. But yeah, that's
We
my number two.
love it. We
Thank
love
you.
it. My next one is be firm in your opinions and what you want. Don't just be agreeable. And I think in the past, I've always been, well, I think not just relationships, but in life, I've always just kind of been a bigger people pleaser. And so whatever anybody else said went. And even if I didn't agree with it, I was just kind of like, okay. But I think in my past relationships is where I really learned to put my foot down and make sure my opinions were being heard and the things that I wanted were being heard because it's important. It's important to also put yourself first if you're, in a relationship and even just in life. It's important to take into account what you want out of it. You know what I mean? And so being firm, not letting people walk all over you.
Oh my gosh, I kind of feel like I was on the opposite end of that. I was always like, I want this, I want that, I want this right now. If it's my way or the highway. Take that as you want it. I remember wanting a partner like that just did everything that I wanted them to do. But really that's just not how it is. I feel like it's both of like it being in a relationship, it's a 50-50 thing. But like you give and you take. But also you what's the word? You compromise. You
Mm-hmm.
know? Not everything that you want. It's just like you not compromise as in like not getting what you want, but just learning to get that out of I don't know how to put that into words, but more of just you can get what you want in a different way. You know, I think like that's how you compromise that out of a partner. But
Yeah.
go ahead, Queen, with that one. Okay. But my third one is some things are better left unsaid. So what I mean by this is that as an example, I used to really get into super heated arguments or just I used to say things that I regretted, like when we were getting into an argument or if we're about to get into an argument. I feel like as I'm older and more mature, if my partner doesn't want to talk about our argument right then and there, that's okay. And especially when it's getting hot, to let it pause, to just not let it get there because you cannot take back things that you say, no matter who says what. If it has an effect on, like, even if you got into into a fight with your ex or your current partner, if you say something really hurtful, it's traumatizing to them, and they'll always remember that, and they'll always carry that on with them. You can never they can never unhear it. They can never unfeel it. The same thing with you. You know, you wouldn't ever want someone to do that to you. And like I said before, I used to want to deal with a fight or an argument right then. I remember staying up until 4 a.m. arguing because I wanted to deal with it right then and there. And one, you're probably just gonna, they'll just agree with you. One, you know, they're just gonna say something to end the argument. So it's not really a true conversation. It's not a true, and if you, and we mentioned this before, if you can't sit on something, you have to let yourself think and feel to make a better decision and conversation. So I've just learned to, some things are better left unsaid, keep it for the morning, just pack it away for a little bit. And then once you're ready to talk about it, it's okay to take some time in between.
I used to be the same way. I think we used to do like don't go to sleep upset type of thing because
Yeah.
there is a kind of satisfaction in knowing that the next day is, kind of like a fresh start. You've kind of cleared
Mm-hmm.
the air the night before, everything, everything's good. But
Mm-hmm.
as I get older, I feel the same way where I think you just need that time. You need that
Yeah.
time to really like think everything through because then half the time the next day I'm still like, oh, I remember now there's like all
Yeah.
these other
Yeah.
things that we could have talked
I
about
wanted to
last
say
night too.
this. I
Yeah.
wanted to say
Yeah.
this. That's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah.
Another one I put here, these are my next two, but they kind of go together, so I'm just going to say them together. But trust your gut, and if it feels wrong, it probably is wrong. And I just
Period.
mean with, the way that they act or sometimes the things that they say, if they're taking you a little bit off guard or taking you back a little bit, or if they're doing something that doesn't sit right with you, usually your gut is right. You know what I mean? And you have to be the one person who has your back because nobody else is in that relationship with you. Nobody else knows what goes on behind closed doors. You have to be your own advocate. And if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. And it's not good
Mm-hmm.
to just push yourself into forcing it to work.
Period. Oh my gosh. I'm sure all of us can attest to ignoring flags. I've ignored flags. I'm victim to it. I will admit to the fact that I ignored red flags because I thought it was going to work out. I had hope it was going to work out or that they were going to change later down the road. But now that I look back at that, how was I clueless? Like was I what? Who would have ever thought? But it's funny because my next one is actually like the same thing, along the same lines, but it's learning to walk away when it's not serving you anymore. Because before, because I ignored flags or because it didn't feel right and I still gave it that chance, it was so much harder to walk away. And I feel like when you let someone break your boundary or walk over you once, it'll happen a lot of times. And so if you don't set up that boundary, you're just going to get used to being walked all over. And then it's harder for you to stand up for yourself. And then all of a sudden you're at this stop where, when do I call it quits? But I learned that even though sometimes it is what I want, and even though I want to serve my heart, and I don't want to think with my brain, I want to think with my heart. I learned to just walk away from a situation that I know that I can now think a little bit more clearly. Like, do I see myself with this person in 5 years? Not even five, like forever? Like, do I see them? Is it going to work out? And if you are shaky on that, walk away. Even though, because sometimes you'll be like, oh, no, 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 they're going to grow into their shoes. Babe, no, they absolutely fucking will not. Okay, like if you're already doubting this now, that doubt will never go away later. So learning to just walk away when you know it doesn't serve you is something that I've learned to do, even though it is so hard sometimes to ignore your heart. So,
And I feel like we had that conversation a lot too in
mm-hmm,
my last breakup where,
mm-hmm,
nobody ever really talks about being the one to break up with someone. It's very much, very popularized to talk about being the one who was broken up with, being the one who got your heart broken. But it's just as hard to walk away, especially if there wasn't something that was a big factor in the breakup as far as like somebody's actions or, somebody saying something. It's more just because that's what you think is best for you. And I think that,
mm-hmm,
I don't know about anybody else, but for me, sometimes it's hard for me to grow into the person that I want to become when I'm in a relationship. And it's so much better for me to do that alone. And to do that alone, you have to walk away from the relationship. And even though, you still have strong feelings for them, you still love them, it's it's difficult, but it's better for you. It's what's best for you to leave that situation.
mm-hmm.
And I also think
Oh,
back to the red flags really
yeah.
quickly. If you see one, because I used to think they were just like a one off. Oh, that was weird, but I'm sure
Mm-hmm,
I'm just reading too much into it because I don't know them
mm-hmm.
very well. Let me just tell you, it is not a one off. Usually, if you see the red flag,
It'll
that
never
will
go
be a
away.
thing that you will see throughout the entire
It'll
relationship.
manifest in different
Yeah,
ways if it's just
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Better to cut that early. Cut that
Yeah, but
early.
it is hard though, because sometimes it's like, well, what if it gets better, right? But what if? Because I feel like that's what a lot of us get stuck on. It's like you don't know. It's like it's hypothetical, like almost. So like, oh, well, if you're gonna do this, you're probably not gonna be a better partner in 5 years. So it is a little hard because it's like, why not just give it a go? And then once it isn't working out, then that's when we call it quits. But one, you saw it from the beginning, and two, what wasted time?
Mm-hmm.
Wasted fucking time if you knew from the beginning. But again, you didn't know how it was going to pan out. But at the same time, your body, and we talked about this before, that your body, I feel like your mind and your heart will compensate for each other. That if you know that you are ignoring your brain, your body's going to be like, oh, I'm nervous. Oh, I'm like, why am I feeling anxious? Why does this not feel right? It's because you're ignoring what you know is wrong because you want to listen to your heart.
Mm-hmm.
So they're always going to compensate for one another. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's hard to walk away, but really learn how to
Yeah.
accept those flags for what the fuck they are.
I
Okay.
feel like as women, we tend to I feel like we tend to do this and we're also expected to do this, but play devil's advocate for them and give them the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe they will change. Maybe this will be a one-time thing. And I feel like we're all kind of pushed into that thought process of like giving chance after chance after chance.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if you're seeing the red flags right away and you ignore them, and a couple months in, you're still seeing them, nothing has changed, there's not a very high chance that that will change anytime soon in the future. That's just kind of down to who they are now. And you have to
Yeah.
be okay with, are you settling for this person and all their red flags, or
Mm-hmm.
are you going to go out and find what you deserve to have and how you deserve to be treated?
Mm-hmm. And really, if you accept those flags, They're going to think it's okay. That kind of behavior is okay. And then it just builds on itself. It really does. If it's not one, like we said, if it's not one flag, it's another one. But my next one is, oh, I learned that I am worthy and deserving of love. Really, before I really was gaslit and so manipulated and so deep in the dark, deep pit below rock bottom, bitch. I really believed everything that he said. Like, it's so crazy how I feel like I do want to talk about love bombing or in another episode because that's, or trauma bonding because that's a whole topic and episode on its own. But I will say that in that kind of relationship, they will manipulate you into thinking that they are really all that you have. Even if I disrespect you, you're going to stay. So I'm going to, even though like they fucking hate you, a lot of the time, men, they will not leave you. It's gonna, they, even though they don't want to be with you, they will not say that they don't want to be with you, but they will show you they don't want to be with you. But the thing is, I stayed so willingly that he just, I mean, kicked me while I was down, saying just such mean, hurtful things where I hated myself. I hated, one that really hurt. I didn't want to like get into the weeds of this, but I remember one that was such a pivotal moment for me was when he like shamed my body when I had his kids. And so, but really in when it happened in that moment, I was like, are you stupid? I didn't fully believe it, but I really at the same time was like, are you stupid? Like, I gave birth to both of your kids. Like, don't shame my body. But at the end of the day, like I said before, words always will do a number. They will always hurt you. Even if they really didn't hurt you in the moment, you're always going to remember it. And I remember just hating myself. I hated where I was in life. He really let me hate myself, and he really let me learn or let me think that I didn't deserve better or that I didn't deserve love. So by the time that I started dating again, oh my God, like I was like, are my standards so below bare minimum? But I really did learn that I'm deserving of love and that I'm worthy of having that, because sometimes when someone breaks your boundaries so much and so often, time and time again, you do believe that you're not worthy of anything. But that's so far from the truth. But again, you're just so gaslit and so deep into a toxic relationship that that takes time for that to happen, which I want to add. But yeah, I learned that now I'm deserving of it, because I feel like it's also really dangerous when people get into relationships when they don't think that they deserve love or the right kind or the love that they truly do want, because they just think that, well, who's going to love me? I should accept this for what it is because this is all I'm going to get. Whoa. Did you hear those words? Those are the words that you believed? Time out. Time out. I'm calling the timeout, bitch. Stop and think. But yeah, that's what
I
I
think that
learned.
can
Another
also
thing.
lead to a lot of issues within the relationship because
Mm-hmm.
those thoughts cause a lot of insecurities. And
Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
relationships, a lot of it comes down to trust. And so when you have insecurities like that, you're constantly worried about
Yeah.
yourself and the other person, and so it
Mm-hmm.
makes it
Mm-hmm.
difficult and not really enjoyable.
I
You
know.
can't just enjoy the relationship and
And that's
enjoy
when
the
your
other
own
person.
thoughts start eating at your
Hmm.
brain. And then that's when you
Yeah.
can't be alone. You have to only be with them because you're just
Hmm.
alone. You're scared of what you're going to be thinking when you're alone.
Hmm.
That's a tough one. And that's
My next one kind of goes with yours, and I feel like we've talked about this before. You've talked about this before, but never dull who you are to please somebody else. The person that you're with should be proud to be with you. They should be encouraging you to be who you are, personality wise, character wise. They should be kind of right up there with you. You know what I mean? And I feel like the analogy, when we talk about this, the analogy that you have always given me is if we're out at a bar and we're with, our significant others or whatever, if I want to get up and dance on the table, I'll get up and dance on the table, and maybe my significant other will do it with me, or they'll just be cheering me on. You know what I mean? But they shouldn't
Yeah.
sit there and be
Shame
upset and
you.
be
Yeah.
angry. Yeah, that's what I want to do. You know what I mean? And so I think in the past, it's kind of what I have had, and it does ruin these moments that these little moments that you kind of find really special, or that you act a certain way in because that's what makes you happy. It kind of ruins that to be with
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't accept that quirkiness of you. And so I think just, understanding, I think it just goes back to really putting yourself first, and knowing what you want and how you want to be treated, and not accepting anything less than that.
Period. I need to find some. Oh, that's something that I've learned now too. That if he doesn't, do not make me feel guilty for who I am. Don't. Like that's just something that is so normalized. Like, no, he's just trying to make me be better. No, he's just shaming you for your spunky personality. Don't
Yeah,
let
it's
anybody dim your
it's
light.
like if he's pushing me in school, that's making me be better. If he's pushing me in my career, that's making me be better. But if he's sitting there trying to change certain aspects of my personality, that's not making me better. That's just making me into the type of woman he wants me to be. That's not making me better. That's not changing anything to
Nope.
improve myself.
But Queen, I wrote this down a while ago, so let me talk on it. The rule of IER. Does he give you the IER? Because he should never be he makes me happy. He makes me, he makes my world. He makes me laugh. He's my happiness. He is like how I love myself. No. Does he give you the IER, which is, does he make you happier? Does he give your life, does he make it lighter? That's ER, but just the IER. No one, your partner should add to you, not take from you. And they also shouldn't be all that it is. Does he make me happier? Does he make me prettier? Does he make me, because someone can be pretty, but sometimes I've seen it before where I had a friend, well, old friend. He dated this girl, and she's so drop dead gorgeous. But her style prior to him was different because she really didn't date any guys like my friend. And he knows how to dress, like he knows how to carry himself. And he didn't change the way that she dressed because, I think it's different from when you want to dress a certain way versus when someone forces you to dress a certain way. But she just like elevated when she dated him. Like she just took her style, went from like, it just went up. And I was like, oh, okay, they're not dating anymore. But now she is just a baddie. She is a fucking baddie. And I remember before, like her style was so different than what it is now, but it just made her like into this like way glowier version of herself, which is why I'm like, does he give you the IER? And that's something that you should always, that should be like a, what's the word? That's a must. He should never be the only reason why you're happy. He adds to my life, but he doesn't make my life, But yeah, so my next one is, it kind of doesn't make sense, but what kind of picture I want to paint for my kids is something that I've learned from my ex. And in the way that I've really learned to be, that as a parent, you're truly a role model for your kids. You're a role model for your kids. And sometimes it's so, and I've seen a lot of parents do it, and they don't know any better sometimes, but some parents kind of, when they're going through toxic relationships themselves, they're trying to figure out what it is that they want to. But sometimes, what kind of picture are you painting for your child? I'm not speaking on, some parents, they do learn from it, and sometimes it already happened. So what can you do except for learning from your mistakes? But now that I'm given this chance, like, I really want to be able to paint a picture for my kids on how to be loved. I want to marry and be with somebody who my son wants to be, and how my daughter wants to be loved, or how a man should love her. I think that's something that has really shaped me, where like before I was like super curious, like, oh, well, what if we do work out? What if this can work out? But you should never feed into your own curiosity at the stake of your own children, or at the steak, bitch. Is that what it is? No. Hold on. Let me
Yeah.
word that. Don't don't feed into your curiosity at the sake of your children. We know I give up.
For the
I give up.
sake of your kids.
Yes, for the sake of your kids. But I remember I saw a clip from, I don't know if you watch Dolores or Dolores bitch. There are these two besties on TikTok. They're really like on YouTube, like Alessi, something like that. They're two besties, and she went on a podcast. One of them did. She went on a podcast and she said that my parents were really toxic and they would constantly go back and forth of being together one month, not together for a couple of months. And she was like, I felt abandoned. And I was like, oh, are they going to make up this month? And sometimes when people who are very toxic get into relationships and they have kids and then they get married, that habit is still there. So when they're having their kids and they get married, their kids are suffering for the on their kids are suffering on the behalf of their parents because of their toxic ways. So just painting that picture for my kids is something that I really have been living by, especially with love. Sorry, that went on for a long one because I was just trying to figure out how to say it. Damn, Jesus Christ.
That was funny. That was a good one.
Thanks you.
That was a good one. My next one is understanding love languages and understanding your own love language. I think love languages can change depending on who you're with and how you have been treated or the way that you are being treated. Because I think previously my love language used to be physical touch, and it's just not that anymore. It's more like quality time, words of affirmation kind of thing. But I think understanding your own love language and how you communicate that, and then understanding the other person's love language and how they communicate that or how they expect to receive, you trying to share their love language with them, I think is really important.
No, I like that one a lot. I had a thought in my brain, but I lost it. But I think that goes back into like what we were talking to, like your other point, and that sometimes in how people communicate. Are you gonna go to somebody who's quiet when you want to be all like loud and funky and all out of element? No. Sometimes when you're different love languages for different people, and sometimes it's okay that and you have to understand where you come from, because someone who's physical touch, you think they're gonna be with somebody who doesn't like physical touch at all? Be for real, you know. But no, I totally get that. And I feel like
But you know
it's okay to
what? Like,
change
you
too.
don't like physical touch, and we
No,
give you hugs.
I've been getting better about that. But
And Arlene too, but she touches our hair and stuff
I
still.
know she be too touchy. That girl is too touchy. But
She
we
she
all need
like
that
doesn't
person
like to be
sometimes.
touched, but she is very touchy.
Yeah. No, but we all need that person sometimes. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's either we outgrow it, we learn from it, or sometimes another partner brings it out of us. You know? But anyway, so my next one is 100 100. Okay, so I'm not going to get into the whole thing of like men and women being 50-50 whatever, but I've learned in my most recent relationship that, you know, it's not 50-50. A relationship is not 50-50. I truly am wholeheartedly that it's 100 100. I'm giving you my all, I'm giving you my everything, and it's like I got you because I love you. And I think that I really learned that it's not, I feel like before when I was young, I thought that love was only about receiving and how can this person serve me? Which, yes, that's very true. Like, what can you bring to the table? But it's also about learning to give, learning, like, I feel like you should love to love and love giving love and seeing the reaction that you get out of the people that you love. Like, an example, my sister was watching my kids when I had work, and I was getting myself a latte, and I got her favorite latte without her knowing, just because, like, I know that she likes it. She's doing me a favor, and coffee makes everybody happy. I mean, most of us happy, but it's just because I do. And I'm not going to do it just to get something in return. I'm doing it because I love that person. And that's what I've really learned a lot of from being with my last ex.
I think ideally it should be 100 100, but I think it's also important to be able to have that communication with them where if you're like, oh, I'm only able to give like 20 today, and then they can pick up the 80, you know what I mean? And so I feel like that goes along with like compromising and compromising on how much you can like mentally give, physically give in that day, because you can't expect somebody to be 100% there 100% of the time. It's just, everyone goes through their ups and downs of emotions, or, whatever's going on at their job or just in their life. And so I think also being able to have that compromise of I can pick up the slack when you aren't feeling it. But I think at the end of the day, it should be, 100, 100. And I think
I think also too,
sometimes,
it's like, to give in, when you can't give 100 one day and they pick that up, it's because you know that you would do that for them and that they would do it for you. It's like a,
yeah. But I will say, I think that sometimes can be easily taken advantage of. So I feel like it's a little bit tricky. It's something that you have to be careful of, because what if now it's every day, okay, I'm only giving 20, I can only give 20. And now it's every day, you're putting in more effort into the relationship. It's going to get tiring for you.
it's the
I
boundary
mean,
thing. It's the
yeah,
boundary thing.
yeah.
You can only let that, you can only do it so often, okay? Because now you're just only giving 20. What about the 80? But the next is how to truly love myself and how to be in a relationship but maintaining independence, which I feel like you talked about a little bit. And before, like we said, we were young, we just want to be with that other person all the time, but your own individual sanctuary is huge. It's a must. It's something that you need. And sometimes, like, you don't always need to be texting your partner. That's kind of, if you don't live together, okay, I see that. But even then, I'm like, when I'm out with my friends, you can wait. You know where I am. I let you know. You don't need to harp on me all the time, But no, I think maintaining independence while being with another person is one really how I feel like relationships last, is because you are okay with, because how are you going to get tired of each other when you're not with each other all the time? But yeah, that's
I
just one
think
of them.
it's also important to keep that independence, because it is kind of what helps make you you. It keeps that really individuality and uniqueness of who you are to your
Totally.
core, rather than being so wrapped up in, you know, now you just become this relationship. That's what people know you for. That's what people know you as. You're now seen as a pair. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
keeping that alone time, or maybe it's like, for example, if you have hobbies that you're really into and you keep that as something that you do just for you every now and then, I think that's really important to keeping true to yourself.
And also, it's like, you know what? My ex, he had his friends, but I had my friends. I feel like, again, even then, it's like having your own circle outside of a circle is, you have your own space out of, being you. You're still you, but, you're with another group of people. But no, I think it's really important because sometimes, like, your boyfriend's friends become your friends, and then who are your friends? And then if it doesn't work out, who are your friends? So it's always
Hmm.
important to have your own end of the stick.
I had that. That happened to me. My
Oh.
boyfriend's friends became all my friends. Then when we broke up, there were even some friends who were my friends first, who I'd been friends with for years. And then when we broke up, they all congregated to him. And then I didn't have anyone. Yeah. It's important to keep them, some of them, separate. You can mix them every now and then, but it's better to not have it be like a consistent thing. I think it is healthy to have space.
Yes,
Yeah.
for
That's
sure.
kind of like my next one, where I just said you can live a life outside of your relationship. So I think that really goes along with, everything we just talked about keeping things for you, and keeping that independence while you're in a relationship.
And again, it's important. But my next one, this one is something that I was like, damn, when I mentioned before, I was like, my standards are below bare minimum, bitch. But really, bare minimum is really the bare minimum. I remember before, I mean, granted, I went from someone like my first ex was like something like, he didn't give me shit. Also, we were really young, going into our 20s, teenagers, like growing up. But like my last ex, like he was just such a gift giver. Like he was, his words of affirmation, gift giving, acts of service. Like that's just his love language. And I really learned that he, like, the bare minimum was something I wasn't even getting. he would take me out randomly or give me things just because he thought about me, like just little things like that. I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that's something that I love. Like, that's a love language of mine, like it just being, knowing that we weren't talking all day, but you were thinking about me during your day. And that makes up for texting all day, every day, every second of every
It's
day.
a reassurance.
Yeah, it is. And that really showed me like, oh, I didn't know that existed, like he just, and even like when we were just like laying in bed, like like I said, I'm not a physical touch person, but I remember like, how they always like the thumb thing when like you're just holding hands, like he would just show me all those things like that where I was really like, oh my God, where was my version of love? Like, was I even loved, like from my first relationship? Like, oh my gosh, like just, but I tried not to, applaud a fish for swimming because that's how I learned, you know what I mean? Like, don't applaud a fish for swimming sometimes, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, that's how I learned that concept, was because he just really showed me a way of love that I didn't have. And I feel like that's when I learned. I was like, no, opening my door is not enough. Flowers one day is not enough. Like, you need to, it's more than that. But yeah.
I like that one. I think we all need to raise our bar a
Yeah.
little bit. I
But
think
it's hard to figure out where it is though sometimes. Okay. Because, that's how learning your standards is hard when you're not dating a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's, yeah, just learning.
My last one is trust is key. And trust, before I used to just think trust was like being loyal. Like trust as in just not cheating on me. You know what I mean? But I've since
Yeah.
learned that trust applies in everything, physically, mentally, emotionally. There is trust in everything, and trust can be broken in every one of those ways. And so I think, building a strong foundation in trusting your partner is really important, but also staying firm in your boundaries when that trust is broken in whatever way. You know what I mean? Because it's not, trust isn't doesn't just apply to cheating. It goes
Yeah.
so much further than that.
Loyalty and like, I'm really a ride or die when it comes to like friends, family, relationships. Like, if you jump, I jump. And really, before, I remember like even some arguments, like if you're gonna go, I feel like the loyalty and trusting is if, like, let's say you're getting into an argument with a family member, then your partner goes behind your back and talks to a family member, or, you know, is talking about you. That is not loyalty. You didn't. It's not cheating, but also like, are you on my team? Like, that's where I kind of feel like loyalty and trust come into play. Is that like, we're one team, so you're either playing for my team or you're not. So don't do crazy shit, sideways shit. That would make me question that. But yeah, I love that one. There's not just loyalty or trust and, you know, cheating, but our duo can
And
help
also
you.
trust in yourself too,
And also
not
in your
just in the other
relationship,
person. Yeah.
like how much you really do ride for each other, and like how, like, I know that I know that he has me like that. So, even when it's, but yeah, not just cheating, but as our team goes. Okay. But my last one is, I was like, oh shit, I forgot about that one. But no, is effective communication. I think because I lacked so much communication from an ex, one, I've learned so many things, that like effective communication with my partner, and then family, friends, and my kids, but also even when sometimes someone doesn't want to talk to you, and we talked about that a little bit before. Not everyone, even though you feel like that someone owes you something, they don't. And sometimes, even though you want to talk to them so badly, it's like, no. If it's like, sometimes no communication is better, and sometimes even and no communication, no response is a response. And also just learning to take things for how it is that's you communicating how much you really care about the situation at hand. And so, because I learned all those things, I feel like I've learned a little bit more on how to be more mature in communicating, and how really important it truly is.
We kind of came full circle. I started with communication and you ended with
I love
communication.
that. Oh my God, look at us go. We literally just blindly made these lists and we were like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
So, yes, I love
This was
this for
kind of
us.
good for being on the fly.
I know, right? And I kind of just felt like we let it like purge.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we were able to let out a good, amount of information. And I feel like this is very serving. And I always say this after every episode. I hope that anybody listening, if you're struggling, with relationships, self-love, self-respect, I hope this served you. And I hope you found something out of this because we come from, a place of not judgment, but wisdom. Like we've gone through this, okay? Like we're not talking out of our ass. Like this is really from experience.
Yeah. We are not
Yes.
perfect people. We've been
No.
there. We've definitely have our fair share of
We've
embarrassing
definitely done
stories,
that. Yeah.
crazy things, and I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a kind of satisfaction in knowing that now we've come to a point where we have so much growth to where we can look back on these things and
Mm-hmm. And we
do
can
our
talk on
best to
it.
give, words of wisdom and advice
Mm-hmm.
from things that we've done wrong or things that we've experienced to
Yeah.
hopefully help somebody else not have to go through that
Yeah.
too.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. But yes, I think that's all for today's episode. But I hope,
Mhm.
again, you guys found something out of this. You're taking away something from this. This is really fun to record and film with Kaelin. So, yes, we'll talk to you guys. Oh, and next week, hopefully this week, we have a guest coming. The next
Mhm.
episode soon, we have a guest coming with a really crazy story. So, keep on a lookout for that shit. So, yes, I hope you enjoy this episode as much as we
We
did.
we are
Oh,
on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube,
yes, handles.
Spotify, Apple, all No Baddies Left Behind.
Yes, no baddies left behind. Okay, so stay on the loop so you don't get left behind. Okay, so follow us on everything. But yes, okay, Queen. But is that everything that you had to say to her? Am I forgetting anything? Okay, period. Well, we'll talk to you guys on our next episode. Bye.
Bye.